what does it mean to be human? How do we develop our full potential? How do we get to be healthy and happy souls? To answer these questions, we have to start with the basics. For best results, we have to know all the parts and we have to know how they fit together. One of the most important parts of the human being is the human psyche. Traditional psychology splits the psyche up into 3 component parts: your primitive and irrational id, your morally superior superego, and the ego, which has to balance the two. Against this colonial and Christian perspective, we think of the human psyche as consisting of 2 basic components: the spiritual ego and the bodily ego. The spiritual ego is your real ego. It is your Buddha nature, your genuine self, your soul, your Atman, your transcendental self, your original face, or higher self, as it is referred to by the various spiritual traditions of this world. Your spiritual ego is quite special. Not only is your spiritual ego independent of your physical body and consequently immortal, it is also powerful, creative, highly intelligent, deeply compassionate, and incredibly aware. Your spiritual ego also has a purpose. Its purpose is not to fight evil, learn lessons, or dominate others on some cosmic checkerboard. Its purpose is to incarnate into a body to help build beautiful spaces where all souls can incarnate, play, and have fun. In addition to your spiritual ego, we have your bodily ego. Your bodily ego is your body's ego. Your bodily ego is your awkward self, your outer self, your illusory self, or little self, as it has been referred to by the various traditions of this world. Your bodily ego is an important part of the human psyche, but it is different than your spiritual ego. Your spiritual ego is bright, compassionate, powerful, and aware. But your bodily ego is limited by your body's fragile neurology. Consequently, it is not as bright and aware as your spiritual ego. Also, unlike your spiritual ego, which cannot be harmed, your bodily ego can be damaged, sometimes quite severely. When damaged, the bodily ego sputters, diminishes, and loses some of its original light. Finally, unlike your spiritual ego, which is immortal, your bodily ego is dependent upon the cells of your physical body. When your cells die, your transient and ephemeral bodily ego dies as well. Of course, your bodily ego is not completely different. Like your spiritual ego, your bodily ego has a purpose, and that purpose is to help your body survive and thrive. Your bodily ego helps your body survive by utilizing features of the physical body like instincts, muscles, memory, intellect, and emotions to get food, make shelter, and fend off threats. Your bodily ego helps your body thrive by working towards establishing a strong and more permanent connection with the brighter and more powerful spiritual ego. Connection between the spiritual ego and bodily ego, and not some silly struggle between warring factions, is the key to human development, human potential, and happy human existence. Connection between the spiritual ego and bodily ego is so important that humans have been developing techniques to facilitate connection for thousands and thousands of years. In our modern times, psychologists and philosophers have studied connection between the spiritual ego and the bodily ego. They use words like flow experience, peak experience, plateau experience, pure consciousness events, and even transcendence to talk about and describe the process. One of the first modern scientists to study connection was Abraham Maslow. Maslow noticed that people who had what he called peak experiences tended to be healthier, happier, and more fully self-actualized than those who did not. So what does it mean to be human? How do we develop our full potential? How do we get to be healthy and happy souls? The answers to these questions are simple. Take your bodily ego and your spiritual ego and, using various techniques and practices, try to connect the two together.